So as the WNBA season has continued to deliver time and time again, there's something that I've noticed the last couple of seasons that might become a problem for the WNBA as it continues to grow and expand, and these women continue to put on masterclasses. Allow me to explain. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to BoxInOne, a basketball podcast and content creation platform created by roischand and Joachim, and we are back with WNBA content. We're nearing 550 subscribers, so before you watch this video, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more daily BoxInOne content. And thank you so much for 31,000 views and counting on the Olivia Miles video. Absolutely insane. And we have another video about her coming soon to the channel as well. With that being said, though, there's something that I noticed over the last couple seasons with the WNBA that may become a problem. So I want to frame it like this. We all remember when Kahleah Copper and Kelsey Plum on June 13th each dropped 40 points, and Kelsey Plum had 15 straight for the Los Angeles Sparks to send it to overtime against the Phoenix Mercury, right? That's the thing. Most of us probably did not hear about that until the day after. Why? Because Game 5 of the NBA Finals was happening at the same time that game was happening. And then most of us also saw Jessica Shepard when she was only the second person in WNBA history to drop a 22, 20, and 10 stat line. The first player to do that since Alyssa Thomas, right? Well, that's the thing. Most of us probably didn't watch that game. Why? Because the NBA playoffs were on. What I'm noticing time and time again this season, last season, even the season before, when the WNBA is really pushing out amazing talent, and that's not saying that the WNBA has not been pushing out amazing talent for the last 30 years, but now you have Paige Beckers, you have Juju Watkins, you have so many players that are absolute stars, either coming into college and then going pro, or players that have been pro and have brought so many eyes to the sport, like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. The problem is, though, when these moments happen time and time again, and we can look at Olivia Miles' dominance as a rookie so far this season, when we look at when these moments happen, a lot of us aren't actually aware of when they're happening because there's other things happening in sports that unfortunately are taking a precedent. The start of the WNBA season is in May, right? This is the peak of the NBA playoffs. This is also when stuff like NHL playoffs are happening. This is the peak of sports in terms of people actually paying attention to different sports just because of where they are at in the seasons. And I think when it comes to viewership and maximizing that viewership, right, especially when you have so many talented women, it's going to become an issue in the future because the NBA is also just getting more talented and more talented, right? But tonight, for example, we had a Commissioner's Cup final preview between the New York Liberty and the Las Vegas Aces. A lot of different storylines, right? The New York Liberty with Sabrina Ionescu coming back after missing the first few games of the season. The Las Vegas Aces also continuing to stay afloat, not necessarily stay afloat, but be a team that's a top contender in this league while still somehow struggling with depth. There are a lot of different storylines going into that game with the Liberty winning, but nobody knew that game was on tonight. Why? Because the NBA draft was on tonight. And not only was it an NBA draft, it was one of the most stacked NBA draft classes we have seen in almost a decade. So when you really have the WNBA continuing to schedule all of these great games with great storylines and have great moments, coincidentally or coinciding with the NBA or with the NHL or just major sports leagues in general, yes, it's a part of it, but the issue is now you're not really maximizing your viewership because instead of getting all eyes on the W when it matters, it's, oh, I didn't even know that happened. Again, Kahleah Copper and Kelsey Plum went band for band in one of the craziest games of the season, and I only saw about it in highlights because it was Game 5 of the NBA Finals that night. So the next question is, what are the solutions? So there's a couple solutions to this problem, right? You could front load the marquee matchups if you are going to continue to start the season in May. Now, mind you, the WNBA did just announce they will be playing 50-game seasons going forward, so some of this will be just eliminated in general when the WNBA playoffs are pushed back a little bit later when sports are not at its peak, but still, you could front load the marquee matchups more specifically in May and June when leagues like the NBA and NHL aren't playing and have more primetime slots. For example, right, the NBA does not do a lot of Sunday night games during the regular season, and the NHL also naturally has off nights during a playoff series. Slotting your games in those moments in between series where sports fans need something to watch, especially when the playoffs continue to wind down and more teams get eliminated, that could definitely be a great way to get the women more viewership and still take up those primetime slots. Taking into account the NBA draft for moments like today, right, you could also schedule games or marquee matchups after the NBA draft, so you have an overlap of sports fans, and also promote those during the live streams, not necessarily the live streams, but the live broadcasts of the draft to remind people, hey, we have more basketball. I know Summer League is coming up, but these women are also doing some really cool things. So again, if you are still going to keep the same schedule, make sure that you're using that wave of just basketball hype in general and leading it into people watching the WNBA more. There is another layer that makes this really interesting, right? I mean, just because of how much the WNBA season is possibly constrained because of the international basketball calendar, and also now with things like Unrivaled, it really is where the W wants to actually position themselves without necessarily stopping on other streams of revenue for these women, right? We also have to consider the insane turnaround after the women's collegiate season and the WNBA draft. Those women only get 2 weeks, and then it's like, boom, you're in WNBA training camp. So I do think pushing the season back and kind of allowing the collegiate season to settle a little bit more, get a little hype around the WNBA draft a lot more, because sometimes the WNBA draft, it sneaks up on you. It's like, oh, okay, the Final Four is here. Oh, wait, these women got to make a choice to get drafted in 48 hours, and then in the next 2 weeks at that, they're being drafted. That's an absolutely insane turnaround, right? So pushing the season back a little bit would change some things, because again, the playoffs for the WNBA, outside of football, there's not a lot going on in October. The NBA does come back, but after opening week, a lot of people don't pay attention. And even still, for the NFL, that's mostly December, January matchups or late November games where people really start to watch and focus on the NFL. Obviously, fans pay attention year round to the NFL, especially when it's in season, but those November matchups, those December games, those are the ones that really decide who is in the wild card, divisional matchups, things of that nature, right? So the WNBA, they do have a window where they can maximize their potential if they push the season back, and that's definitely something they're doing by expanding 50 games as well in the regular season. But I think it's just going to be something that the WNBA is probably going to have to feel out, right? Because again, you don't necessarily want to put yourself in a position where you're in between a bunch of sports, kind of like they are now in that May window, where it's like, okay, you got the NBA finals, but you're not going to see this really cool stuff in the WNBA, and you got the NHL playoffs, so you're not really going to get to see this really cool stuff in the WNBA until after the fact. And again, in a league that is putting up so much talent and so much just iconic moments from these women this season and the last few seasons in general, it would really be a shame if just because of where they are scheduled, we are not actually getting to see these moments in real time. With that being said, though, that is going to do it for us today. Again, as always, if you enjoyed the content, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow all of our socials in the description wherever you get your basketball content. We are there, whether it is TikTok, X, Threads, Instagram, YouTube where you're watching this video, Spotify. And again, as always, for the last time, if you enjoyed the content, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we will see you all in the next one.